And in today's session, we shall explore one of the most important themes in improving our performance across government. We want to look at how we drive results through performance contracting and also cross-government accountability. We want to look at Uganda's model for public sector transformation. And with us is a highly distinguished public servant, the Deputy Head of Public Service in charge of performance and service delivery, a national leader at the forefront of driving reforms that align Uganda's public sector with performance, accountability, public value, citizens' trust, and they are citizens-centered. Welcome with me our guest today, Ms. Jane Kyarisiima Mwesiga, Deputy Head of Public Service in charge of public service delivery. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Onesmus.
We want to start from the very foundations, the fundamental question on building the structures of public value and the creation of public value. We understand that Uganda has made significant strides in aligning institutional performance with national development priorities, especially through the NDP III, which we have just concluded, and the NDP IV that we started on 1st July 2025. The question is, what are the key lessons Uganda has learned in linking performance targets in national planning frameworks such as the NDP III, which we have concluded? And of course, these could be lessons we are taking to the NDP IV and how we are evolving in the future of planning and implementation at create public value.
Okay. Thank you so much, Onesmus. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you've rightly said, Uganda's development agenda has been anchored mainly in the area of alignment. We've been able to align our institutional priorities to the national priorities. And this has been done through the NDPs that we have been able to implement from NDP I, NDP II, and NDP III, which we've just concluded. And the lessons that have been learned during the process, we've been able to use them in the development of the NDP IV and to ensure that all the bottlenecks that have been identified during the process, during the reviews of NDPs, have been used to strengthen NDP IV. So the key lessons that we have learned in the process, one is about the whole of government alignment. During the implementation of NDP III, the program-based planning and budgeting was introduced. And on the basis of that, we're able to create the program working groups. And these program working groups, they bring together different entities that are working together, they plan together, they look at the resources that are available together and assign those resources to the key priorities of government under that program approach. So in doing this, we've been able to shift from the siloed kind of programming to kind of connectedness in terms of planning across all the various programs and sectors. And this has been able to leverage the resources to ensure that they are assigned to the key priorities of government. And this has really helped us to ensure that critically we are able to address the key challenges related to resource allocation, but also the limited resources that we have are able to help us to achieve more with less. The other lesson we looked at in the area of alignment is the institutional alignment. So at the institutional level, we've come to ensure that the CEOs, the permanent secretaries, the CAOs, the town clerks, their performance contracts are aligned to the to the institutional priorities. And we normally tell them that an institutional scorecard is the scorecard of the chief executive. So right now, we have ensured that going forward as we implement NDP IV, that all the contracts of all chief executives, we've reviewed the performance contracts for the chief executives, for permanent secretaries, for CAOs, town clerks, heads of government agencies who were hitherto not signing performance contracts with the government, and also heads of mission. We've come up with those contracts, and we have ensured that they are well aligned to their strategic plans and to the institutional priorities. So this is very critical to ensure that actually at the end of the day, you'll find that when their scorecards are achieved, the services that are required by those particular institutions that are supposed to be delivered are actually delivered, because we are assessing their performance on the basis of achieving those targets. So that also is a lesson that we have learned, and most of these lessons we learned them as we were doing the review of NDP III. That's what has informed us. And even right now, what we've done is to ensure that the performance contracts of a town clerk or a chief administrative officer is mirrored against the current performance assessment of local governance, which is looking at all the service delivery areas in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of natural resources, in terms of all the road network, all those, even the projects themselves that they are required to implement. We assess them against that to ensure that actually they are able to attain the tangible results on the ground.
So thank you you have given us insights on institutional culture, on institutional priorities, and also institutional alignment, and how the introduced performance contracts will help enhance the help institutional performance in terms of a shift in compliance, and also in terms of a shift to a positive culture on performance. There is this common phrase, whole of government, which of course is increasing being accompanied by whole of society. Society to mean CSOs, to mean the private sector, academia, the media, and all the people that have a role to play in development. And in your view, how has collaborative governance involving all these stakeholders contributed to sustaining a culture of performance across government?
Yes.
Or how can it enhance performance?
You know, as we continue with the transformation of the Uganda Public Service, we've come to realize that the issue of collaboration, the whole of government approach or whole of society approach, or the whole of world approach, because now we are operating under a global village. So it's no longer an issue of, it's no longer optional to operate under that whole of government approach. It's very essential for delivery of critical services, because you will find that where one institution is delivering, you'll find that some of the bottlenecks that impact on their performance can be resolved by another institution. And that's where we come in as Office of the Prime Minister, and more specifically the Office of the Deputy Head of Public Service. We've come to bring in that collaboration, the coordination, to ensure that institutions are able to work together. So it's very, very, very critical. And some of the lessons I've learned is that we've come up with the multi-stakeholder platforms, where you find, for example, the program working groups. When they meet under the program working groups, all the stakeholders are in there to discuss. The civil society organizations, the institutions under the program working groups, the development partners, and all actors are part of that process. And during their discussions, they tease out all these bottlenecks and agree on the solutions. But one critical message that needs to come out that we have come to realize and what is helping us to move forward is that initially when they were planning, implementing, and monitoring as single institutions, you would find that institutions would come in and put resources sometimes to non-priority areas. But now when they come together in this stakeholder engagements and platforms, they start with the discussion of what do we need to do for the citizens of Uganda? What are the priority areas? Now, once they have agreed on the priority areas, then the question is, who is to do it? It is this institution, it is this ministry. And then the allocation of resources comes later. But initially, in a siloed kind of programming, you'd find that you have resources, even you'd assign them to non-priority areas. But now they start with that conversation of what do we need to do? Who is going to do it? Now we have these resources, we assign them to those particular program areas.
When it comes to collaboration, there is a tendency of engaging stakeholders, civil society, the private sector, at the point of implementation, much more than they are involved at the point of planning.
Yes.
How are we working to solve this challenge?
Now, this challenge, we have learned, as I said, during the NDP III review. That was one of the major weaknesses that was identified at that time that impacted on performance. And in the process, that's why now we are strengthening the coordination and ensuring that those multi-stakeholder engagements are happening and having a conversation. And that also involves also the development partners. And we are saying, let's start with the planning. And as the planners are indicated, but we have also encouraged them to do the continuous monitoring to identify the challenges together. My office has come up with guidelines. We are yet to disseminate the guidelines, but we have agreed and we are going to be supporting all the stakeholders who do monitoring, evaluation, and inspection all across government, including the development partners. Every year we are going to be having one joint monitoring and evaluation exercise across the country. So we have planned together. Now we conduct that joint monitoring, and then we come back, we do also joint reporting in terms of identifying the challenges, the bottlenecks, and agreeing on the next steps in terms of improvements. So that way it will be able to improve the coordination, the monitoring, and then also arising out of the results of the monitoring, it will also inform the next planning process. So I believe that way to support that process.
A citizen is a major stakeholder.
Yes.
And usually how government interacts with the citizen is the simultaneous communication and the feedback.
Yes.
We have identified over time the challenge of feedback loops. How is government mitigating this challenge?
Yeah. So under the Office of the Prime Minister, what we've decided to do, we've been holding barazas, but we've come to realize that we need to strengthen the barazas as a way of strengthening the accountability, but also the communication with the citizens. So the barazas now are going to be strengthened, and we are going to roll them up to the lowest level. And we are going to enable, as Office of the Prime Minister, we shall remain coordinating, but we are going to enable the local leaders to ensure that they can hold these barazas even when we are not there. But Office of the Prime Minister will always be available in those barazas through representation to ensure that the key issues are picked. Because the Office of the Prime Minister still remains the platform for listening to the citizens of Uganda, and then escalating the issues that come out in form of policy review, in terms of policy initiation, but also in terms of coming up with evidence-based decision that will resolve the bottlenecks of those citizens. So we'll strengthen the barazas. We've come up with client charters and service delivery standards to ensure that the citizens are able to familiarize themselves with those service charters so that they can demand for the services that are due to them. So we are also coming up with a platform like Speaking to Your Government or Speak to Your Government.
Is that national?
It is going to be national. It will be national. We'll start at a high level, then we continue moving down. It will be a data-driven kind of platform. So where people can phone in, I think as I remember, we have also created what do you call it? A toll-free line under Office of the Prime Minister. We are going to enable people to, even through our website, Office of the Prime Minister, to send in their comments and recommendations. But also this is going to be decentralized up to the lowest level. So citizens can openly air out their grievances, air out their comments, but even proposals of how we can improve service delivery. But the other area I think I need to mention is what I mentioned earlier on, is the issue of the one-stop centers. We want to ensure that we decentralize the one-stop centers. If you've had an opportunity to go to Kololo, there is a place in Kololo where there is a one-stop center by government, and there are services being offered by URSB, KCCA, UIA, Uganda Investment Authority, and they have put all those services like registration of birth, registration of death, licenses, work permits by internal affairs. So we are saying, since it is here at Kololo, we want to decentralize and ensure that all other services, including land registration, they are offered up to the lowest level. So that is one of the initiatives to ensure, because you see, citizens complain because services are not closer to them. But we want to ensure that once that is decentralized, starting at regional level, then we shall go even up parish level. We will be able to provide the services as they are required, and this should be seamless, and this will be part of the program of having a connected government, so that I go to one center, whatever service I need, I get it there, and then without being referred, go here, go there. Just seamless and connected.
So we have heard about the stakeholders. We have seen the primary stakeholders, well, the citizen. You have also told us about the private sector. We have also looked at institutional coordination, look about the whole of government and how the MDAs are working together. But there is another critical stakeholder, who is the civil society. And I'm much more interested in how this civil society is a partner, especially in accountability.
Yes. The civil society organizations are key partners in the accountability sector in the accountability processes of government. Because some of the programs that are being implemented are monitored, coordinated, and sometimes delivered by the civil society organizations. And they have been very supportive. Even in all these programs and platforms, we work with them very closely. We've even seen situations, especially in the local governments where they are very active, that most of the government programs and projects are actually monitored by the civil society organizations. And government has come to accept that as a way of life, that we rely on their reports to inform our programming, our monitoring, and decision-making. So the civil society organization is a very critical partner in the accountability program for government, yes.
The transformation of Uganda's public sector service is entering a new phase. And we need strategic innovations. We need strategic reforms. What are some of these innovations, some of these reforms that your office is prioritizing to build a results-driven, citizen-centered, and a future-ready public service.
Yes. The Office of the Prime Minister, and more specifically the Office of the Deputy Head of Public Service, responsible for performance and service delivery, is at the center of building a future-centered and citizen-centric public service. We've been able to conduct a rapid assessment to assess the state of service delivery in Uganda. We've gone to the local governments, up to the lowest levels. We've been able to visit the health centers, up to the lowest level. We've gone to the schools. We've looked at the road. We've looked at all the service delivery points in the country, including the water and all that. So on the basis of the bottlenecks that have been identified, we've also gone to ministries actually to discuss with permanent secretaries and say, what are these bottlenecks that are impacting on service delivery? So on the basis of that, we've identified those bottlenecks that seem to be cross-cutting. And on the basis of that, we've come up with, I would say, 5 key priority areas that are supposed to support us as we build a future-ready citizen-centric public service. And one of them is what I talked about. It is the issue of the systemic performance architecture. We want to review the performance management architecture. That is our number one. Because we've come to realize that if we do not tackle the issue of performance, we cannot improve. We still see public servants coming to office very late, others absenting themselves, others doing things differently. But we've come to realize that the first thing we need to do, and we have already come up with a draft, which we intend to take to cabinet for approval, of a new performance management system for the entire public service. And that this includes not only the public officers, but also the political leadership. Our intention is to see, starting with all heads of institutions, as I mentioned, the permanent secretaries, the CAOs, the town clerks, the heads of missions abroad, the heads of government agencies signing to a performance contract. And it is going to be, it won't be optional, and we will agree on this particular day. This is the day you are signing. And going forward, the very day that you are signing the new contract for the financial year, we shall be releasing the results of the previous performance, mentioning the institutions that have performed well and the ones that have not performed well. And the performance results will inform either your renewal or non-renewal of your contracts or leaving the service. And this goes for also the CAOs and town clerks. So, and this system is going to be supported by a robust rewards and sanctions framework. Very robust. So, and we want we are supporting a culture where we are saying, under my office, that's, we now have a different, say we are saying it's no longer business as usual. It's actually now business unusual. And that can only happen if we are able to assign sanctions to non-performance. So that is the robust system that we are trying to do. That is one of them. The second area that we are talking about is the issue of monitoring and evaluation. Because it's one thing to say this is a performance culture we want to strengthen, we want to ensure every public officer is aligned to. But if we do not monitor and implement and ensure implementation of what has been planned, then we won't do much. So under Office of the Prime Minister, we are supporting the development and rollout of a NDP web-based M&E system. Actually, the system is already complete. Last week, we trained the monitoring and evaluation team across the entire service. We have brought them on board. We want to train them on the system, and they are the people who are going to be our ambassadors in every institution. This includes even the agencies and the local governments, to ensure that now this system is the one that we link it to the NDP. That's why you are calling it an NDP web-based M&E system. So the indicators and the targets that are in the NDP IV are the very indicators that we are using to assess the performance of the institutions, but also for the heads of those institutions. So it is going to be, it will be cascaded right from the national level to the institutional level to the CEO, and it goes down to the lowest person. And now all those indicators are going to be entered in our system, the M&E system, and we monitor. And when we hold our annual meetings, we shall be calling those accounting officers to account for the results. So, and that way it will help us, and we link it to the rewards, to the sanctions, to renewals and non-renewals. So the other area that we want to talk about that we are doing, apart from the web-based, is the issue we talked about, that we want to ensure that citizens are, the public servants are accountable to the citizens. And we are telling people that we are a public servant, not the reverse. So public officers are the servants of the people. The public servants exist because the citizens exist.
Yeah.
And therefore, they must create public value. So we want to bring them to account through the strengthening of these barazas, and especially in those underserved areas, the regions that are still underserved. So they are supported with barazas, the service charters, as I mentioned, and want to ensure this continues to happen.
Tell us more about that term, public value.
The public value. You see, we've seen a situation where public servants, they come in office and they agree they are supposed to achieve certain outputs, because hitherto the emphasis has been on outputs. And outputs are like, a meeting conducted, a road constructed, okay? A hospital constructed and equipped. But now we want to move from that level, and then they tick the box and say the hospital is there, water is there, the borehole has been sunk. But now we are saying that's not enough. We have gone to the local governments during my visits to appreciate the state of service delivery in Uganda. We have seen boreholes are there, and they are bushy even. As we were going in, you see people running to clean them up, to remove the bushes. And then you find in the communities around, the borehole is there, but a public officer ticked the box and said, I have sunk the borehole. But in the neighborhood, you find a hospital, you find a school. Those people don't have water. In the neighborhood, a few meters away. So we are saying we want to move away, and public value is measured by how the citizens access the services, and they use them to improve their lives. That's what public value is. And we want now to move out from measuring outputs to outcomes and results. Yes, that's what public value is.
I see there is a shift, a positive shift in performance culture.
Yes.
And of course, this performance culture must come with a shifting, the positive end of the leadership.
Yes.
So how are we ensuring that leadership across the public service is also transforming to support this positive performance culture that you are creating?
That's a very good one. I recall there was one, now that we are even talking about the Public Service Day. I don't remember the time, but there was a meeting of all heads of public services in Africa. When they met, they realized that the biggest challenge of public service, of all the public services in Africa, was the leadership challenge. It was recognized as one of the major, and we still believe that is the biggest challenge we have. If you look at the resources that we have as a country, we have adequate resources. You went through these exhibitions, you saw the kind of resources, the minerals, the what. You know, how do we galvanize all this and ensure that it translates into the transformation of the economy and making the lives of Ugandans better? The challenge has been on leadership. The people who head our institutions, the CEOs, the people who head our ministries, who head our local governments, but not only at that high level of CEOs, but even at other levels, the heads of department and heads of divisions up to the lowest level. It has been a big challenge. And so what are we doing? One, we have decided to come up with what we've called a leadership training program. And we have partnered with the Chandler Institute of Singapore. We started with the permanent secretaries. We developed a 4-segment training program for the permanent secretaries. So far, they have finished 3. We did one in person. We did an online one for 1 week. We did another one, which was a benchmarking. We took them to Singapore for 1 week. And we have given them projects on the basis of lessons learned. We've put them in different cohorts to work on different projects. We've given them guidelines for reporting. And the last segment will be, I think, in South Africa, Pretoria, which is at the end of this month. And during that meeting, they are going to present to us their projects. And projects must be projects that are scalable, that are identifying the bottlenecks in service delivery within the cohorts that we've put them in. And then they tell us how they are going to scale them up and the kind of problem they are going to resolve. And then we support them, and then we see how we scale it. In terms of improving service delivery, we want to roll it out from the permanent secretary level to heads of government agencies, to other institutions, and up to the lowest level of public service, to ensure that we are building leadership not only for today, but for the future. And we know once we have the right leadership, all these bottlenecks that we are seeing here, they will be resolved.
Thank you so much for all these perspectives on systemic transformation, on collaborative accountability, on innovations in the public sector, which of course reveal that Uganda is not just reforming on paper. It is re-engineering its public service around performance, around data, about leadership, around leadership, and around public trust. Would want to have your final reflective message. All citizens, all people who are involved in delivering services and creating public trust and public value.
Yes. Well, my final message is that we need, as public officers, to appreciate that whatever we do, at the center of everything we do in terms of the projects that we initiate and implement, the programs that we initiate and implement and report on, the interventions that we come up with, they should all be geared towards improving the livelihoods of the Ugandans. The innovations that we come up with should be geared towards improving the lives of the Ugandans. It's a very simple message, but many often than not, you'll find that there are projects designed, they are implemented, and then when you go to the lower local governments, you find that a project is there, you have a market, you have a milk cooler, but there is no milk because it was placed in a wrong place. You have a project of processing fish, it is there, it's just a giant there, and nothing is there because you've placed it in a wrong place. So my call to the citizens, to the public officers, is that whatever intervention we come up with, whatever project we develop, let's do a needs assessment. the needs of the citizens. And we develop projects and programs and interventions around the needs of the citizens of Uganda. And that's what public value is. And that's what I call upon all these public officers to ensure that we do this. And that's when we shall be able to transform the Ugandan public service, which is the implementing arm of government.
Bottom line, public service is public trust. There couldn't have been any other perfect moment to have this call for excellency, to have this call for the creation of citizen value and trust. Thank you so much, Deputy Head of Public Service, Performance and Service Delivery.
Thank you.
For joining us today in this special session of the expert-led series from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.